Ah. Hearted or not, it still stands clear. The voice of the Callison. But what, oh no, I'd love to hear Let It Go. Did it sound like Let It Go? How short and simple, I want to hear more. So many things and songs and worlds to explore. All that and more adventures galore. Take advantage of the potential and the talent at 22. Lots of things left to do. Such a charming voice, a pretty handsome voice for normal songs and all. Well, Gregor knows or doesn't know, but I can assure you we will sing like Julie Andrews, train him singing like Julie Andrews. That's my honorarium, and in person, Zach Allison. Stay put. Okay, I know what you're all thinking. This is really a difficult space, okay? There was some cobwebs down here, and it's a little, boxes and things everywhere, so it's a little constrained, but this will be a very short meeting. But I do have one cumulation. Okay, for this evening. So, you're all standing here. I know there's a lot of you, and I know you're trying to get around things. This won't take any time at all. One thing I forgot to talk to you about is the Everlost people that are reading that. Okay, that's like this whole mention, but before it even got started, I decided to break it down to people who actually wanted to read the novel. So in like an Everlost clubus. Okay, so for those of you who are in that clubus, going to be staying here. Okay, for those of you who are not, then you're going to be going upstairs. Okay, now also a couple of little things is one, you're all going to get the opportunity to take part in Charles Pizer, and additionally, Charles Pizer travels the globe. In the that's basically what it is. So Charles Pizer travels the globe. Going to Italy, having the climactic point, like the middle to late part of the movie you know, in Puerto Rico, actually Brazil, um, and stealing a song off of Thomas and Friends' Big World, Big Adventures with Friends. It really talks about, Kelly Hannah Darby and Jacques Charles Pizer, and also a really beautiful song I found out of Hal Leonard. I believe it's called Belando. I can't remember the name of it, but I think that's what it's called. And additionally, there's going to be, when they go to Britain, there's going to be the song Shall We Dance from The King and I, which I think that you all have heard. I know very, very well. But I want to get the Charles Pizer one out of the way first of all. So we're gonna spread it over a really, really long, big length of time. Okay. Um, so now, what I'm going to be doing actually is I'm going to be reading the book. I'm going to be reading a section from the book filmed. Okay, I don't do it very, very often, only because, when you're reading something, then, I tend to look at it another way I do. I read, on my own for all of you, to then have to, read, having it filmed, um, for all of you, um, in the club. So that's really why I don't film these. But we have done a lot of reading privately without the camera today. I am going to have that filmed, just because I just want to do a little bit, okay, just certain parts out of the book, probably one recording per each part of the book. I think I'm going to break it down to that. So, now, I talked all that I need to talk now. You need to walk all you need to walk. I just want to know, what did you have for dinner last night? I just want to hear what everyone... Oh, okay. Yes. Alright, so oh, that sounds good. Lasagna? Oh, really, really good. That sounds really nice. I had chicken with bacon around it, and also some macaroni and cheese and corn on the cob, which was really nice. I also want to sometime, maybe this week or maybe when we come home, we're going to be trying, and I mean trying and having the real integrity and the open-mindedness to see Steven's Universe. I was looking at the movie and I knew that Zach Callison would be in it, and that was the reason why I wanted to see it. But I just couldn't, because it was worth money, and I couldn't have the intention of seeing something that I wasn't a fan of seeing, because it's an animation cartoon for kids. But we will try to get past that and see it. And additionally, there's going to be a side story to go along with that. Where Zach is going to be a day caregiver or a cousin to a young boy in a family who all day long, they go off on adventures. They ride bikes around the town, they go see a movie, they go to the zoo, they go play in the park, they skate, you name it. And then they come home to this dinner table that serves tradizionale, plain, just I don't mean plain, but just standard, like, American dinner plates and home cooking. The child does not have any interest in eating at all. Just doesn't, it's out of the question, occupied with wanting to, bond, talk, and do things. Zach is either sitting at the table or someplace else. Anyway, he probably is half of it or dislikes it. And there's also a negative underloan that we're not going to get into, and a Dante kind of thing, which we're not going to talk about. And that is my honorary mention person trying to discipline a child who misbehaves. I can't imagine, that you would do that. I can't imagine you, scolding a child. We're not that type of person for that. Now, I've said all I needed to say. Other people upstairs, for those of you who are reading Everlast, please stay downstairs and remember where we left off. Remember that Allie, Leif, Lief, and also Nick are going to head to the Hunter's place to see if they can talk to the living world and probably talk to their parents or get them into Everlast or get them back somehow. I don't know. But let's find out what happens. So, everybody else upstairs. Oh, I remember that you're reading this book with us, right? Okay. I kind of forgotten and you forgot. Okay, you're reading Everlast with us, of course, so I forgot. So, as you know, Zach Helson reading Everlast with us. And I also want to recommend to you another series of books. Like 5-book series. It's called The Underland Chronicles. And we read it way back in 2018, and I had, those characters, at my Minton, actually. Yep, from the book, My Imagination. Yep, so I would recommend to you that if you like reading this, then I would highly recommend the Red of the Overlander book, because it is really, really good, and I promise that you'll fall in love with the characters. Most definitely. Especially Boots and everything. Such an interesting name. Okay. Oh, you knew all about that? Wonderful. Yep. You certainly have what I would consider to be the Gregor voice. And I actually have a little page that I'm going to be making of that called the Gregor voice. And you have the Gregor voice. Whatever came to mind to me when I was reading it. Actually, come back over there. Do you have your copy of it? Wonderful. Rainey should have taken. Everybody else have their copy of the book. Well. You all saw my email, didn't you? Well, that worked out wonderfully. Okay. That is amazing. I just want to tell you, since they're still down here, since I was talking to you, I also want to tell everybody that Gemini Clubus will not be going on this week because I forgot to inform the Minton they would need their books. So Cancer Clubus last meeting tomorrow, Sun and Cancer, Moon and Leo for tomorrow, and then the next day, and then we're going to get into our really exciting Leo season coming up. So the rest of you, vamos, big on, and those of you who are reading the Everlast, come back down here. Okay? Wonderful. Okay, so how many of you have your copies of the book? I know that you do. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Now, let's see here. Now, let's actually, I hope that I am not, oh my goodness me. I really hope that I'm not doing this any damage. I hope so. So fragile, but not really fragile. Okay, we're going to go back to the beginning of the chapter. Right here. Okay, everybody. Now, this is the beginning. I want you all to turn to chapter 11. I want you all to turn to that chapter. And remember at the beginning of every chapter, that there's a little note for Mary Hightower. You know, the reason why they call her Hightower. You know, she sits up in a tower, in that twin tower, okay? And I promise you that this next section of the chapter, you're really going to like, because it is, the only spoiler I'll give you is that it does have some action in it. But that's all I'm going to say about it. So this one says, remember that, kind of the scary thing about what we were getting into last time, is that remember that all of the Everlost people, remember that, first of all, if you stand too long in a certain place without being, the Everlost solid ground, you sink. Isn't that scary to think about? And also you can, touch things, with it going through you, as we all should know that, and keep that in mind. Keep that in mind for this chapter. And also one thing is that, you're alive, not alive, and you also fall into a rut, where you can't get out of. And remember, Nick was writing his name, on little pieces of paper, trying to remember it, and, that leaf got stuck into a game, and he had to be pulled out of that. But anyway, we really discussed all of that for last chapter. I want to get into this one, watering the bridge kind of thing. Chapter 11, as you can tell by the title and to tell what's going to really be happening, is The Haunter. Also called The Hunter, but never mind. So The Haunter, that's what it's called. So I want you to follow along as I am reading. So let me start. And here's the thing, because, as you know, I have, in the past, allowed, you've read one section, you've read one chapter, haven't you? Yeah, you probably read the third chapter. You're a good reader, really. So I'm going to I'm going to take in turns. So I'm going to read every other section, you're going to read, every other section. So I'll read this one, you read that one, and that's how it's going to work. Unless you all want to volunteer and I can draw sticks or something, but I don't have that right now. So, anyway, so, it says, Nick and Allie had not been out in the rain since they crossed into Everlost, since the very, very beginning when they crossed into Everlost after the car crash incident, and they were in the forest. And about leaf and everything. So, drenched to the home took a whole new meaning when the rain passed through you on its way to the ground. Passing through you on the way to the ground. Like you don't feel it. Just, you're invisible, really, but you're there. So, sleet is worse, Leaf said. So the old pickle factory, remember, that's where the contour is. The old pickle factory was just where Scully had said that it would be. A white brick building on Washington Street that at some point in its life crossed over into Everlost. When buildings are destroyed, when forests die, then they cross into Everlost for eternal life. So, a heavy steel door was ominously ajar, probably open. I don't know. Nick didn't like the looks of it. Why do I get the feeling this is a really, really bad idea? Because, said Allie, you're a terrified wimp. And so, to prove that he wasn't, Nick was the first to push the door open. Bad idea or not, no more complaining. He had made his decision, and he was going for it. The instant he stepped in, the aroma snagged him. There was a rich smell in the air of roast meat and garlic, hinting him with more ferocity than the pelting storm, which, as you know, didn't, affect, because the wind goes right through you and everything. And you can't really die from this point, because you're already, dead. But the aromas were so wonderful, they made Nick weak to his knees. Like, so imagine if you suddenly ended up in Everlost, or it's been such a long time, and you've been like out in the open air, you never had food for a while, and you're really, really starving, and then you don't even think about it. And you just open, it's like from the rain, getting into buildings, smelling something so amazing, that would probably, make you hungry. Like, I never smelled anything that good in a long time. You forgot what food really, looked and maybe smelled like. Because as we know, you can forget things when you're in the Everlost. So let's see here. So the building had been gutted, leaving nothing but clouded windows, a concrete floor, and black girders holding up the floor above. Hanging from the ceiling was the source of the wonderful smell. Roast chickens, turkeys, and smoked fish hung from meat hooks. Entire salamis hung from strings. "It's true, then," said Allie in a charged whisper. "The Hondo can rip whatever he wants right into the living world." "I'll never doubt you again," said Nick. "Wow," was all Leif would say. They were so awed by the hanging feast, it took them a few moments to notice the small afterlight sitting cross-legged. And I forgot to mention that sometimes you read the chapters on your own, like every other time, and I forgot to mention that this time, I would be reading it aloud to you. Okay, so I didn't, I wish I said that at the beginning, but so be it. I don't think of things, and then I think of them another time, and I just say them. So, I'm not a robot. Can I say so? After like sitting cross-legged in the center of the concrete floor, he looked frozen there, as if he hadn't moved for many years. His glow had a yellow tinge to it, and shimmered faintly against the gray walls. "I've been waiting for you," said the Honto. Nick found his feet, not wanting to move forward, and Allie whispered in his ear, "He probably says that to everyone who shows up." "He's just a little kid," said Leif, but Allie shushed him. And here's something that I want to talk about. Remember that in the Everlost, there were no adults, and the oldest children, 15, 16, and Mary is one of the oldest people, and she is like a mother, she is like, the queen, and wife and all that. And it's very, very hard to picture, a character like Mary with, how she talks about and acts at 15 as an adolescent. That's definitely interesting. So, the three kids approached the seated figure. The light was dim, but as they got closer, they could see that even though he had died young, the haunter was a very, very old spirit. Physically, he couldn't be any older than 6, and yet there was such a sense of age to him, he might as well have been a withered old wizard. His clothes he wore barely looked like clothes at all. They were furs, stitched together, perhaps to protect him from an ice age that had passed 20,000 years ago. So it was probably from like the primal times, earliest humans, cavemen, also called lowmen as well, because they're low down in the caves. So, it goes on to say, "Tell me why you have come," the haunter said in his high-pitched voice. He had only had one visible tooth. Perhaps it was most of his front baby teeth had come out shortly before he died. We heard you can teach people to haunt the living world, Alice said. I teach nothing, he said. Either you have the skill or you don't. Very important line right there. And remember, his name is the Haunter. So maybe, everything he does or says, probably, doesn't exaggerate. But we'll find out what happens. But that's just a little thing to remember. So then he reached into his lap and produced a smooth stone the size of an egg. Speaking of stones, and I'll imagine my own imagination, I'll put it out. But so remember in a series of unfortunate events, when Violet Clawson standing on the briny beach, like the very, very first scene, there was like a stone. It was like a flat circle shape, and it had an X on it. Well, that's not exactly, but for some reason it just came to mind. A smooth stone the size of an egg. The hunter looked at the stone for a moment, as if it held the wisdom of the world. There was one smooth motion. He hurled it to Nick. Catch it, he said. Nick held out his hands, but the stone passed right through his chest and hit the floor behind him. Now, you would think anything would bash into me, but that's not the case. This wasn't an Everlost stone. It was an artifact of the living world. So remember, anything that's not solid, you put your hand through and it would pass through. Now that would be, kind of neat and effortless and easy to live, but, So, anyway, Nick held up his... Okay, sorry, what about that? The hunter laughed in his very old little kid voice. Pick it up! Bring it to me, he said. How am I supposed to pick that up? The same way I did, said the hunter. Nick went to the stone, leaned down, and reached for it. His fingers closed on it, but passed right through it, just as he knew they would. He tried again, concentrating this time, and nothing. The stone didn't even wobble. Fine, thought Nick. He'll point out completely where we are, and then he'll start teaching us. Nick stood up and turned to the hunter, anxious to just get on with it. I can't, said Nick. I can't pick up the stone. In that case, said the hunter, your lesson is over. Then he snapped his fingers. It's something so, effective about just how people just snap their fingers. So he snapped his fingers, and then came a thundering that had nothing to do with the weather. The steel door behind them slammed itself shut. Then down a flight of old wooden stairs. Remember, this is all happening like in the dark. It's like pitch dark. And but there's a little bit of that light as well, probably from the lightning. So it's dark, but it's light enough with there's a little bit of that, moon gray white light to be seen. Anyway, so then down a flight of old wooden stairs came a dozen figures wrapped from head to toe in black robes, and they headed straight for Nick. But before he knew it was happening, dark-gloved hands lifted him off the ground. Stop! What are you doing? The price of failure, the hunter said calmly, is an eternity to think about it. Remember, he's the hunter. And then they turned Nick upside down. So what they did, they took him like he was on the floor, and they grabbed onto him, and they probably walked. Walked with him. He was probably facing, backwards. What are you doing? Put me down. And then they turned Nick upside down, and plunged into him, head first, in a pickled barrel that had crossed over into Everlost with the building. It was still full of slimy saltwater brine. That's cool. You know me, I am not an underwater person, so I couldn't imagine that. Then they slammed the cover back on, and Nick found himself submerged in salty, liquidy darkness. For a horrible instant he thought he might drown there, but realized he couldn't. The brine was in him and around him. It sloshed through the place where his insides should be. It filled his mouth and nose. Yet still he would not drown, and never would. Now, this is just really, really random. That doesn't have to do with anything, but I have to mention it. So remember way back when we were singing that song, and this has absolutely nothing to do with it, but in the manner of it being a city, in a manner of it being cloudy, and in a manner of it being, something that sounds like brim, as one of the lines in the song. That Abby was, that you all participated in her teaching you dance and you sang party, party, party. You know that song? And when it says brine in there, that kind of sounds like brim. You could mistake it filled to the brim. That does make sense. And also, this would probably be the place to, as we can recall from the song, have a party. Because these, Quilly Leo people, wanted to be rebellious and have, private party. This would probably, be the place. Remember the song, party, 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 do, 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 do. I'm trying to think it's really something. I don't know if you've heard it. No what song I'm talking about. Oh, you did? Oh, okay, so you went on there? Okay, good. Yeah, I put the video of them learning dancing on there too. So anyway, so Allie stared at the barrel paralyzed with disbelief, listening to Nick's angry, muffled screams from within as the dark robed figures nailed the lid on tight. So this was why no one ever returned from the haunter. How could she have been so stupid to take this risk, to make her friends take the risk? I did this to Nick, was all Allie could think, and I made him come here. Allie looked at all the other barrels. Were those barrels full of others who failed the test, unable to die, yet unable to escape, left to pickle in their own thoughts for all time? The other boy next, the haunter said. Leif shook his head. No, I don't want to. I just want to go. Bring me the stone and you can go. He looked at the faces of the kids around him, but they didn't seem to have faces between the dark wrappings.